Hello, this is Federal Postal Court Judge Hugh with you again with Chief Mark Kishon Christopher from the UK and Judge Samantha Ellen Lambert. Just seen the big announcement, Mark, on the common law bondage slavery video. Incredible video. And I was riveted to the chair, just watching it over and over again, trying to uh, dissimulate it, analyze it. This is one of the best videos that the announcement that you've made because it is so poignant and so specific.
Yeah, and first of all, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Thank you.
It's okay, Mark. But one of the questions that I want to know is, I thought common law is good when you want to be tried under common law. But there seems to be some sort of deception here, some sort of pulling wool over people's eyes. Can you just kind of run us through that, some of the trickeries that they do?
Yeah, sure. When the word itself, and let us not attach any connotation to this word common, okay, common. So if we remove any of the definitions or the hundreds of definitions that are within the hundreds of dictionaries, and also the contradictive definitions, what we are left with is just this simple word, C-O-M-M-O-N, okay? C-O-M means to come together, people coming together. And the M-O-N just simply means it's one. It's one mind, all coming together. It's one jurisdiction, all coming together, which is called common, okay? As in mono. Common just simply means those things which are common for that group to coming together. That we understand, okay? And what we're doing is that we are analyzing and we are creating the common denominators that defines the word. So we're defining this word from the ground up. So now that we understand the basic parse, which are the constitutional parts of the word, like Christi-fer is 3 syllables. Each syllable has a meaning, okay? Christ being one of them. So common is 2 syllables, and each syllable has its own meaning. We've now brought those 2 meanings together and understood it as a common. And what it's common to is what we're now going to be speaking about. So if you, I, and Samantha came together to agree upon something, and because it's only 3 of us that has come together, can we agree that when we agree upon something, we now have a common contract, a common definition, a common agreement, something in common with each other, like we all like to eat bread. We all like to, drink wine and beer and things like that. So when we come together, we have something in common to celebrate. And now if we expand upon this and decide to define what words are going to be, and we bring our own contracts together, like a live-life claim, that language and that system and that tradition that we've now established by meeting week on week now becomes common to us. Can we agree upon that?
Yep.
So if somebody else now pops in for a cup of tea within our common realm, within our common wealth, within our common agreements, because there's only 3 of us that's common to each other, is that guy common to us and we common to him?
No.
Because he doesn't share and understand the language we're writing in, and that we've taken time out to define the words, and that we've come together to celebrate, and we have common foods and things like that. And because of this, he essentially is an outsider. He is not part of our common works. He's not part of our group, unless, of course, we bring him in and educate him here and put the ceremony in to say, because we've now educated in what we've been doing, and because you paid your way, you've shown honor and respect, we're now bringing you in to be common with us. We're no longer now a group of 3, but we are now a group of 4. And we can continue doing this and until you have, say, 13 or 200 or 10,000. And all of those people coming together will now be called a common law court, or a common law wealth, or a common law realm, okay, which I will be all speaking about today. Common law was created under various treaties a long, long time ago when the chieftains of the tribes around the world, and I'm talking about hundreds of years ago, even before Columbus, went to the Americas and things like that. And that's not when the Americas were discovered. They were discovered long before that. The chieftains all came together, and there they decided that they're going to have something in common. One of the things that they have in common is that they're all leaders of their own groups, nations, and tribes. So they now came together. Then what happened is that they began to put their thoughts on paper and agree that the spirit of the document is true in each one of their thinkings. And they spent time out doing this, okay? So now we have a group of chieftains, what is known as common law chieftains, okay, as in fiefdoms. In India, they call this system, caste system. In these countries, they call it servants. Servants is another word for slave, okay?
Yes.
And that's under the feudal law. So the feudal law system in India is called caste system. In this country, it's called feudalism. So these lords, these kings, these tribal chieftains all came together to make contract, to make covenant. And when they did that, they were now able to say, this is the common law of our realm, okay? And I'll show you those documents for that. This is the common law of our realm, okay? And these words and these things are common to us, and it is not common to anybody else. And to redefine that, that is why they call it, say when the Queen or Elizabeth II does this, they call it Queen's English. So it's like me saying, well, I'm speaking in Mark's English, and nobody else is privy to Mark's English except me and my group, which is common language that we have founded. Like the quantum language is the common language of the quantum people of the world. And we are the educators and the fiduciary systems to run that. And that's our court system. It's the common law language of that.
Now, I understand that in the United Kingdom, or England, they have something called received pronunciation or received punctuation, which is the British English dialect. Now, I know in England, there are like, say, Geordie from Newcastle, the regional, or maybe Scouse from Liverpool, or Cockney from London. But now the received pronunciation, from my research, is usually from a southern middle class accent, and it's sort of like neutral. And the BBC has that kind of language, that dialect, sorry. But I read somewhere that the Queen actually speaks posh English or something like that, and it doesn't really apply to the people of the United Kingdom. So
Correct.
What's the deception there, you know?
So first of all, let me put aside the language a little bit and just come on to the common law bit there. The common law have what is known as commoners. Commoners are all the individuals of, say, 1,700 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, or even 3 people that make up that court, and they're called commoners. But the general public, because of the connotation of like common land, like common parks, they believe it's communal. Yes, it is communal for that group. That's why they call it the law of the commons, the law of the commons, the House of Commons. Okay. So they're representing the stakeholders and the people that are within that realm of commoners, and they're called commoners, as in chief commoner, which is, you can look it up, and every country has one, including the city of London, which I will cover. With the pronunciated language, which is what I'm doing, it's that in itself is the code that she is speaking to that common law, even though it's being transmitted all over the world and the entire planet believes it's common to them. But the commoners have a system of feudal laws. That's where all this comes from. Common law is a feudal system, okay? And that feudal system is being transmitted all over the world, and the general public believe that they are commoners. No, the servants of the commoners are called serfs or serfdom, okay? And they are serfs. And serfs, just like the Cockneys, just like the Northerners, just like all of these other dialects, as it were, have their own language. And sometimes in Latin, that used to be called vulgar Latin, generically, whereas the Vatican speaks noble Latin. The language is so different, it just sounds like it. Yeah. So they speak, vulgar Latin, which is the general description for pig's Latin and all that sort of pig's language, sheep's language, all these sort of things. Yeah. So the Vatican, it's speaking Latin and they're using words that sound like Latin, but the meanings that are being transmitted to the common law people within the Vatican court, which is called the Vatican, and the bishops and the archbishops and all those sort of people. So you have the Pope, and then you have the people that wear the purple with the red and the black and things like that, the cardinals, the archbishops, and so they're all the ranks. And these are all people that understand each other in noble Latin. That you understand. So when the Queen is speaking to people, what they are assuming, the general public, the serfdoms, the serfs, believe that she is speaking to them. She is not, because she has nothing to do with the serfdoms, with the servants, with the slaves of her realm. Okay? And here's the twist. Here's the twist. The language itself of what she is speaking in pronunciation, punctuating it, has its own codes of how it's read. Okay? So when people hear the word sovereign, they have no idea what it means, but it just sounds good because there are so many words out there called sovereign. But when she's saying this sovereign state, she's saying my state, okay, of Buckingham Palace, of Clarence House, of Windsor House, and all of the other houses, like the houses of the constellation, is now dictating terms and conditions to the rest of her Commonwealth nations, rest of her Commonwealth realms, which are independent, which are also independent sovereigns, which all came together to create one gigantic system known as the Commonwealth under the common realm. Okay.
Right.
But the language itself is what other people are disabled about, because they believe she's speaking in a coherent and congruent language, but there is no congruence. Like when the Queen does this in her carriage, which is a gigantic crown. She actually is sitting inside a gigantic crown pulled by those horses. Okay. So when she does this is the sign for the all clear sign, for the commoners within her court and Commonwealth realms, the chieftains, the fiefdoms of this entire planet. Now it is safe to go and reap the people.
Growing up, watching her waggle her hand back and forth, she waved us through the Cold War, the Brixton riots, and just recently the 2005 London bus bombing.
Some very dark times.
Yes. When England is in peril, she's always there to wave.
Because I've prepared the people, bashed them down, I've softened them up, I've demoralized them in such an extent with all mannerisms of wars, all mannerisms of deception. It is now safe for you to go and feed what they call the all clear. So when they see this, the general public they go into a hypnotic state to say that everything is okay. But that's the sign to tell poetically, I think it's H.G. Wells, The Time Machine, to say the Morlocks are now safe to come out and go and reap the Ewoks. Okay, it's now safe to do so. And we saw that in 2008, right up to 2017, when the common working class people, which have their own common language, which have their own common customs, lost millions of houses throughout the world. And the commoners, which is the realm of the common courts, their coffers began to fill. Okay. So that's what the language is. You know, like when we say claim, what other people will misconstrue what a claim is, because they have been diluted. They have been given the coloring of the law as to what a claim is, but we know what a claim is. A claim is essentially, this is my coin, and I have logged my coin throughout the planet to say it's mine, and I've got a receipt or a bill for it, okay, which shows who sold it to me, when it was bought, and the monies that were exchanged. And this allows me, when I'm holding it, to be a sovereign, because it not only opens the contract for me to buy and sell, but it gives me total closure as to when and how I sell it. And when I sell it, this unit of measure is not subject to inflation. So this money is not a promissory note. So when I exchange anything with it, the value of it stays constant throughout time and borders,
Right.
Unlike fiction money. So because I am now controlling this, which means I'm now controlling my contract, a contract is written in a language, what is the beginning of that? That's the beginning of a sovereign. Because when it's in my possession, it's not a promissory note. It's not in the private. It's in my hands. Okay, it's in my hands, in the private and in the public. And when I decide to sell this, it will still carry the value of what it's always done so. And I'm not reliant upon the Bank of England to redeem this at an exchange rate, sometimes in 6 months' time, under international commerce, or what they call merchant banking. It's another word for marine. Okay. So these are the beginning elements of the general public needing to know what sovereigns are. And this is called a sovereign for a reason. So if you don't have this, and you don't have the contracts that go with it, you don't have anything common with other sovereigns, because you don't have a sovereign. Okay, these are also sovereigns, what the Roman Empire was paid in, and these are copper coins.
So the other day we were talking about sovereigns, and that being a sovereign meant that you were on your own, basically. But with sovereign coins, you're saying that as an exchange of sovereign coins, that you become a sovereign. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah. So what a sovereign means is that you are able to have your own money, your own language, your own systems in place, and you choose who you're going to contract with and not contract with. Okay. And your units of exchange, what they call offer, acceptance, exchange of value, have to be in real money, coppers and silvers, and in sovereigns. Okay, as in sovereigns. These all make me financial sovereign, which allows me to speak to any king that I want. Now, when I have notes like this, these are all promissory notes. these are private, non-public notes. These are private notes issued by the Bank of England. And for all those countries that have central banks, they are all private.
Right.
What the general public is so difficult, and I appreciate that, the general public have to know that they have been since 1929 in the private. And in the private, there are no laws. You make it up as you go along, what they call private laws. And the courts are all running private courts. But they are all essentially after the private notes that these privateers have been issuing. IOUs. This is not an IOU. If I give this to Samantha or Hugh, I owe them nothing else because there is no middleman. Whereas this has a middleman. And a sovereign is not defined by having to have permission from a middleman, because a middleman robs the ability to give closure to these documents, to these promissory notes. Because when I exchange this, by the time Hugh has to exchange it as mercantile banking, he has to wait 6 months. And the price of this may go down against his own fiat currency, or it might go up. That's not the conduct of a sovereign. Whereas these units does not go up in value or decrease in value, because these coins and coppers that you can buy things with, physical things, is the same 2,000 years ago, and it's still the same. What changes is that the amount of promissory notes that you need to buy into a non-inflationary currency. And those currencies are all issued in the common realm and in the commonwealth to this very small group of people, which you will be discussing. Okay?
Okay, so when some people say to me, well, I can't go to the supermarket and use gold coins to buy my shopping. So for them to use their gold coins, they have to transfer it back into a fiat currency, depending on the exchange rates and everything, to be able to get fiat to go to the supermarkets to buy their food. What would you say to people that you know have that view about that?
Learn to eat and sleep in the world of fact and fiction. This is the world of fiction. And in this fictional notes, okay, you can use promissory notes, you can use that to buy your everyday grocery and make your interactions with it, okay? Having that gives you that level of closure, which you only need to have a small reserve of it, okay, what they call cash flow. In the world of facts, where you want to prepare your constitutions, where you want to prepare your documents, where you want to buy land titles outright, you use this to exchange a real piece of unit that's going to be heralded. You use this to buy it, you're essentially going to get yourself nothing more than a quiet title, which means you have no proof that you own the land, but legally you may have the right to exchange it, what they call a sell. So if you buy land with this and you secure your documents with this, you still are in the world of fiction, because you don't have the ability to secure that document with units of sovereignty. That is common law currency amongst our court system and any other court systems on the planet. Whether that will be copper, which is also the unit of measure, whether that will be silver, which is a symbolism of the moon's energy, copper being the symbolism of the earth's energy, and of course, the symbolism of the sovereigns, which is gold, which is solar, which is sun. Solar is another word also meaning one, okay? These are all gold and silver and copper from our Federal Postal Corp Treasury to say that we have secured our documents, our lands, our houses, our children with, just as Jesus was given what? Health, his future sexuality, his sexual energy to raise a family with the gift of gold. In other words, he's a sovereign. He's got his own health and not pharmaceutical. He has his own sexuality, okay, and not somebody else's, i.e. the soap operas, i.e. Bollywood, Hollywood, that will try to mimic that. And he has his own exchange, unit of exchange in the sovereign realm of copper, silver, and gold. Okay, so that's how we secure it, and that's how we operate as the sovereigns that we are. And we choose whether to contract or not to contract. We choose this, okay? And it is my choice as a sovereign, which means I have the ability to open things and I'm not answerable to anybody else, that I have that choice. But here's the crunch that the general public has to know about common law and what they have to understand what a sovereign is. I don't want to live in a world where I am not contracting with people. Sovereignty for me is a disadvantage, but my ability to move within the conduits is my knowledge. And what is knowledge? It is power. And my ability to pay my own way through life is backed by gold, silver, and copper in the world of factual councils, which is the currency that one council will exchange with another. Now, some notes as opposed to this note, okay, and this note only has one bar on it. You see it, yeah, like this. And it has only one bar. That's a signification of a fiat currency. It's a promissory note. Whereas this is Danske Bank in Ireland. And that's backed by gold. And it's got a gold seal on it. And as you could, let me just show it to you again. Okay, it's got a gold seal on it. And it's not pretending to have a gold seal on it. It is a gold seal. And you can see it's got 2 bars on it.
2 bars, okay.
So, which means this is a certificate. This is a bond gold certificate. This is a certificate of the unit of measure of gold, which is not a promissory note, which is redeemable. It is redeemable in their treasury system. This is a treasury bond. This is a promissory note, and it is not a bond. Okay, and it's even got the symbol of the art gallery that was newly built to say it's just artistry, and it's plastic.
That's what that
and that's yeah, it's just artistry. You know, that's a £20 note. It's that building there is an art gallery. Okay, it looks like computer panels, but it's actually a modern day art gallery. Okay, and that's the unit of everything. Now, when we use our conduits, because we have our own postal systems, as you know, okay, we have our own postal systems, we use real gold-back postage stamps, which has got what? 2 bars. 2 bars to signify that this is gold-back. And they're in the paw of this stamp on this animal, on the paw of it, which is too small to see, but I'll put a big a blow up on it. It actually has a gold leaf on it. The gold leaf is actually printed onto this stamp. Okay, this is why we have the power that we have, and thanks to David Wayne Miller of the language, we have one word, one meaning per sentence, each word quantified, and also each word in the correct sentence position. So each one of those facts is in its correct sequential position called a syntax, and nobody can ever trespass on it. That level of closure it's beautiful.
Mark, when I try to convert the Irish currency, which has a double bar on there, they wouldn't take it.
Of course.
And now it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes. Fact cannot touch fiction.
Yeah. I said, why didn't you say, our policies do not allow us to do this type? I'm thinking, well, it's a pound note. So no. They didn't explain it to me. They said, no, we can't take this one, but you can give us the other one, which is at 1 bar. And I never.
This is a English currency. It's legal tender in this country. Okay, yeah. And so is this. This is factual from Northern Ireland, which is the territories of the 4 nations. And this is also their unit of measure. People are not aware that they're walking around with treasury bonds and private fiat currency, worthless pieces of paper, because they don't understand the difference between chocolate cake and cake that's made out of mud.
Oh dear, that's nice. Well said, Mark. That's really good.
2 analogies which always stands true when dealing with these people is that, as Kipling said, old lamps for new lamps. When you exchange your old lamp, which has the genie in it, the old lamp that has the genie in it, the authentication, which is genuine. This is a genuine note. This is a genuine bond. You give it up for a new unit of currency, which is an empty promissory note. If you remember, or if you look at your own notes, you'll find that your currency in Australia has a round seal on it like that, and it will only say Captain Cook. But it won't have a picture of Captain Cook, because the picture of Captain Cook, he never existed. Captain Cook never existed. So as a result, they don't print it on those currencies.
Captain Cook never existed.
But they only call it Captain Cook, and the picture will be empty. So that's like saying this wall is a picture of Elizabeth, but there is no Elizabeth painting on it, but it will say Elizabeth, which means it's an empty promissory note. It's an empty wall that's got nothing more than white emulsion, which you can pick up for a couple of pounds, and that's how much worth it is. Look, you see, old lamps for new lamps.
Old lamps. They're telling you right in your face.
Yeah, and the second analogy is as easy as taking candy away from a child, because they believe that you are children. Yeah, they believe you are children, and they are taking candy. They are taking candy away from you, which is the bonds, and then giving you empty calories, sweets that are not boiled with fruit and given fructose with it, but really just synthetics like plastic in exchange for this. Old lamps in exchange for new lamps. And that system is now going to kick in the next coming few weeks, when they say, why don't you exchange your current currency bank account into a new centralized cryptocurrency account? Old lamps for new lamps. All clear.
Is that also a slave money as well?
Yes, because there is no closure.
Yeah.
It's the analogy that I used about the carrot in front of the donkey.
Yep.
It's always chasing after a promissory note. Religion is exactly the same. It's always asking you to chase after Nevada, heaven, or you'll be punished into hell. If you don't do what I said, I'm going to stick you in a furnace and burn you in hell for all of eternity. Wow. This is the kind of things that I educate the general public to move away from and realize the difference between mud cake and Mississippi chocolate cake. Yes, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I want to go back to the quiet titles. Why it's kind of maybe obvious, quiet titles, but could you explain that a bit further?
Oddly enough, you have what is known as a warranty deed, okay? And sometime around about the 1939s or 1921, they changed it into quiet title. And the way that that system works is that when you had a warrant just simply means that you have the closure on it. It's like gold and silver. It means that you have the ability to warrant it, okay, that it's safeguarded, it's fenced off, and it's being paid off by real silver, which is what the Americans used to do. This was their unit of measure before 1929. Before the private banks came along and exchanged their old copper, gold, silver lamps for new private, worthless, nickel-plated, copper-plated, silver-plated promissory notes, which is in the private realm. When you're in the private realm, there is no laws. They make it up as they go along, and that's what the Federal Reserve banks do. So the warranty deed gave them a piece of paper, which is called a bond, which was paid off and closed with real money. Okay, the cars got copper and gold and silver, and they had a warrant on that land. Okay, so it was secured globally with silver, copper, or gold. And that was issued with a warranty deed. That warranty deed I could sell for whatever units of measure that I want in gold, silver, or even private notes. I can sell it. And when I sell it, what happens is that you essentially have total control over that land once the offer has been accepted and an exchange of value. And then we do the actual changing of the paperwork, and you take custody, and that warranty deed now goes into your name, and it's logged within the system globally, so people can say she owns this piece of land with this particular certificate, with this original piece of certificate, which is called the warranty deed. The quiet title, when they exchanged it to that level of safety, to that level of precariousness, they turned it into quiet title. Quiet title essentially means that they don't own the land and they don't own anything, but they don't know who owns it, but they have the legal right. It's a but they have the legal right to sell it, but they don't own it outright. And that's what a promissory note is, because you don't know who owns this outright. When they buy a quiet title, it's not proof of ownership, but it's proof of the land exchanging hands. And that's another word for leasing, because on the farming agreements and on the housing agreements, whether you own it outright or not, it still puts you in as a tenant. And if there's a tenant, who is the owner? And they also put themselves as second tenant. So there is a second tenant, say like Hugh is the first tenant, there is a second tenant, and you don't know actually owns the land. And that's why they call it a quiet title.
So this is fraud again as well, isn't it? On another level.
It is fraud on a massive scale, where a person can get hung for such things, because to make men and women and children into slaves is a death penalty. And when I come on to the sovereign, which I'm going to do right now, I will show you and give you 100% proof that the Queen Elizabeth II or any one of those chieftains are not sovereigns. They just pretend, and it's a pretense. Okay, so that's the difference between a quiet title and a warranty deed. Why did that take place? Because the public money, okay, real units of measure, went into private money. And private money cannot give you any security apart from if you are a Commonwealth nation within a Commonwealth language, within the common realm, if you are a sovereign within that realm, as it were, okay? It doesn't offer you that. So to exchange it, they changed all the warranty deeds into quiet titles. Quiet, keep it quiet.
Right. That's what I was wondering, if it's like secret. Yeah.
It's deafening, Mark. It's deafening with the fraud. I can't handle the fraud. It's deafening.
Okay. Now, what I wanted to explain to you folks and the general public is that common law is another word for slavery, and slavery exists in common law. The Privy Council, or privacy, and pirateering also exists in common law until I banned it a few months ago. The sovereign system also exists in common law. The feudal system also exists in common law. And I want you to understand how vulnerable these people really are. And you guys can see my screen, and the screen is being recorded, of course. Now, if the general audience wishes to turn to common law, it will say quite literally on the first sentences, in law, common law, also known as judicial precedent, and I can't pronounce it properly, P-R-E-C-E-D-E-N-T. It sets a precedent, okay? In judicial, what is known as judge law. Judge law is another way of saying private law. We're making it up as we go along. And all we're going to do to establish that is that we're going to keep making the same ruling. And now we've established tradition. And tradition also exists in common law. And in doing so, the common law, the judges, all the puny judges, all exist in common law. Okay, they're initiating common law on behalf of the chieftains. So when the Queen calls you in as Regina, and what does it say on this coin? And I'll take a picture of it and I'll show it to you guys. It says Regina, okay? And when she calls you in Regina versus, say, Tom Muse, Muse means servant, what she's doing is bringing you in as a sovereign. And I'll come on to that later, because you're going to get a real shock. Two shocks you're going to get as to what a sovereign really gets up to. And also that the sovereigns themselves have no status. They have no sovereignty whatsoever. So it goes on to say that they also establish common law in their quasi-judicial tribunals. Tribunal means three. So when three people get together and say this is law, they get you to believe it's not. But it's only established by puny judges, which means it's an oxymoron, meaning it's the things of the lowest status of men and women have the lowest status, the lowest ranking, pretending that they're passing laws, okay? And quite literally, when you read on more and more about the Norman conquest, the British Empire, and the feudal system, okay, which all of you can see on the screen, you will see that as Pakistan, Nigeria, New Zealand, Australia, the Philippines, United States are all under this common law notion. And let's come on to the Commonwealth. What does the Commonwealth mean? That we've now established what common law is. It's common to within that court system of Regina, okay, and all the other chieftains that run with it. So the Commonwealth is the collective wealth of all the commoners within that common law court, what they call Queen's Court, King's Court, and so on and so forth. And that is what they're doing, is that they got the general public to believe that they are the chieftains and the supreme councils of these people, and therefore their servants have to do what they are told. Because if a servant ever objects, then he can't be a servant, can he? So what they do is they subjugate human beings to believe this is the way of life. This is the caste systems, and the gods have decreed this is how it should be, because you're a low-class person and you was born into the feudal system. And as a result, you're locked into this perpetual state of working class, middle class aristocracy. They're all just servants, okay? And that's something that the general public will have to broaden their mind on. So then, on top of that, if you look at the Commonwealth nations, all right, Australia, so parts of Africa, India, parts of South America, and this is, of course, the whole of the Americas, okay, Canada, and so on and so forth, right up to the tundra areas, and I think that's the tundra areas right up to the North Pole area, okay. England is part of the Commonwealth, and you can recognize it's quite a dominant map, but Russia is not in it, okay, and so many of the other countries are also not in it. Now let's come on to a Commonwealth realm. A Commonwealth realm. A realm in Parse essentially means no contract. No contract. That's what it means. But in the world of fiction, realm means that it's the total dominance. Realm comes from the word of being able to dominate an entire region. Like I am the supreme owner and the controller of my realms, okay, which is another word of saying I am the supreme commander, council, and I'm answerable to nobody, and everybody else is my slaves, servants, locked into the caste systems of reincarnation. So they're locked into reincarnation. In Parse, reincarnation means no carnal. Carnal means flesh. It means no flesh. The whole system, what Miller exposed the whole world of this sovereign and all of this language nonsense is that they've got you believing these things really exist. But in open sight, you can see RE means no, as in receding airline, that IN means no, as in incompetent, and carnal, meaning flesh, as in carnal minded, mind of the flesh, flesh minded. It means no flesh. That means there is no reincarnation. It doesn't exist. They make it up along to sell you the caste system. Yeah. You are born into the working class and you have an aspiration to come out of the working class, but you never get to stop working because the designation of working class aspiring is that they have to constantly work. It's the carrot at the end of a donkey's nose. So the Commonwealth realm is a map identical. It's identical, or virtually identical to the Commonwealth. They're basically saying that these countries are all under one feudal king, lord, or whatever it is. And those are all the Commonwealth people coming together to create this realm. You can't have a realm unless you don't have the land. And you can't have a realm unless you have the people to service it, called servants, or servitude, or serfdom, okay, which are all words for slaves. Now, here's the horrible trick that's being played, and people are not aware of this. Now, let's come on to sovereignty, and let's just read what sovereignty means. Sovereignty is the supreme authority within a territory in any state, in any state of the mind. Sovereignty is assigned to the person, which means a persona, body, as in body politics, or institution, as in a government, or as in, say, for example, in a trust position or the City of London or Vatican, which are institutions. That has the ultimate authority. Nobody on this planet has ultimate authority, but they're giving themselves ultimate authority over other people. Over other people. That's another word for a slave master operating in common law. In order to establish a law or change an existing law. In other words, all the illusions that people had about the King Charles being beheaded because of his dictatorial nature is all just nonsense. It's a stage game played for the general public to believe, get them to believe that they have any power in their lives. As long as they get you to believe that you don't, then they've won the game until you question them, until you become educated. And what is knowledge?
Power.
Power. And that's what I'm doing. I'm educating you folks to give you that power, and don't be shy of it. In political theory, sovereignty is a substantive term designating supreme legitimate authority. See how they try to run you into the poetry to say that we have everything and you have nothing over some polity. And what is polity? Let's have a look at it. Is a identifiable political entity, any group of people who have a collective identity, who are organized by some form of institutionalized social relations and have a capacity to mobilize resources. A polity can be any group of people organized for governance. In other words, any one of your governments have supreme authority. Okay, they can do whatever they want. And isn't that the history of what you're looking at until you stop and correct them? Okay, in international law, which means the laws of all nations, all right, sovereignty is the exercise of power by a state. It's the exercising of power by a state. So they're basically saying a state which can be made up of 1 or 1 billion people is a sovereign. They can become sovereign. So one individual can give out its powers to its commoners, its council, to act out in any tyrannical or beneficial manner that they wish, which is all to say that you are under the whim of one group of people or just one person. Okay? De jure sovereignty. People don't understand what de jure means. In Parse, it means no jury, no opinion. Okay? So I'll read it out to you. In law, government, de jure describes practices that are legally recognized, regardless of whether the practice exists in reality or not. So a de jure government can set its own way forward, whether they've established any law. Law means two or more people coming together, or anything else. So if you decide to become de jure, you describe the laws for yourself. But as long as you put yourself in other people's hands, like solicitors, lawyers, they describe and become de facto. Okay, so de jure means your own ability to state your own terms and conditions. And that means that you have to have gold, silver, copper, know the conduits, know your contract law, which everybody can learn by just simply listening to this or going to my website. So, and the de facto in Parse means no fact. Sovereignty refers to the legal right to do so. Sovereignty, which means those people that think that they have gold, silver, contract, can set their own terms and conditions. And those people that don't have access to gold, silver, and don't have access to the ability to pen their own contracts, their own terms and conditions, are open to subjugation. De facto. Okay, so de facto, listen carefully because they love to play with words. In law and government, de facto describes practices that exist in reality, even though they are not officially recognized by law. In other words, de facto means that they don't need to establish anything and they have no facts at hand, but they can still bring something together legally, which is another way of saying they are de jures. Okay? But when you yourself begin to understand how to pen your own contracts, how to spend your own money, and how to have your own factual gold, you are now in a position to become non-de facto. and put these people in a non-de facto position. It is commonly, and you've got to listen to these words because they are referring to themselves. It is commonly used to refer to what happens in practice, in contrast with de jure, which refers to things that happen according to law. So de jure means those people that come together and make something lawful within that realm. The de jure, the de facto, essentially is common law courts, the common realm coming together and saying, this is how we're going to do it. And as long as this is within our realm, within our system, it's become lawful. Okay? It's become lawful, but it's not lawful to the general public unless we brainwash them into saying and thinking, this is how it should be done. And what better way to do that but to create a caste system and to create some sort of a fiduciary system on behalf of them. They're making themselves the beneficiary, of which I will come on to later on. Okay?
Mark, I'm just seeing a pattern here. It seems like the words de facto, de jure, the RE and the no contract. It's almost like a reverse mirror when they say, oh, this is how it's done, and they make the public believe that that's what it is, but in fact it's the opposite. It actually doesn't apply. It actually applies for them, to their benefit.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's almost like a magic spell that they give it all encompassing power and blowing off all this fire like a dragon or Godzilla, and yet it's nothing at all.
It is nothing. It is the magician behind the curtain making fire. Oh, I am the great and powerful Wizard of Oz. Just hot air. It's just hot air. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, the very principle of what they're saying is that we do whatever we want. And long as we get you to believe this is how it should be done, either through a religious caste system or through a process what is known as working class, which is a feudal system, which is a feudal law system, they have human beings surrendering themselves voluntarily, which is controlled by what is commonly known in fiction books as the magisterium. The magisterium is another word for the magistrates court system, which performs this type of magical illusions.
Magi, yeah, magic.
Yeah, magi. Okay, so let's come on to the element of sovereignty. The monarchy means one arch contract. Okay, it's MON, arch as in Marble's arch. That's why Marble Arch still stands there.
Yeah.
One of the United Kingdom. It's saying the monarchy of United Kingdom. That's one person that is uniting the whole of the four nations. Okay, four nations. That's uniting them. Commonly. So it's only within the common realm courts, within the common realm of their own world, the Commonwealth. Refers to the British monarchy. The British monarchy is the king upon the British ship, because British is a ship. Okay, it's another word for a ship, and you can have, however, depending upon how big that ship is, sirs, lordships, and monarchies, which are the owners of the ship, and you can have many ships as those ones that you want, and you can give out those titles like Richard Branson, Sir Richard Branson, which is a title, a maritime title, okay, and give everybody a system known as misters, which means that they are the lowest subordinate upon a ship, a subordinate, yeah, what they call an able seaman. So that's why they call you in as Mr. Mr. to establish the rule of British, not United, but the British, which is the maritime law of total monarchy, which is another word for the captain of the vessel, because the captain has the final say. He or she gives the controls. is the constitutional monarchy, which means they have come together and they've created some sort of a paperwork like a constitution or a charter, because charter is maritime and it's commercial, like chartering an aeroplane. Constitution was men and women coming together within a common law system of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is the four nations of Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland coming together to form this constitution. That's what it means. Its dependencies, okay, and I won't read any more, Isle of Man, overseas territories, and it describes all of that. The current monarchy are head in Queen Elizabeth II. What does that mean? The current monarchy and head of state is Queen Elizabeth II, who ascended the throne in 1952. They are basically saying here that she is actually the supreme commander, supreme dictator of all the Commonwealth nations, which you can see in maritime and on land, as well as in corporate, which is United Kingdom, coming together, and she is the supreme commander of it. She is the supreme head of it. That's like saying the king of all kings. You know, Solomon, King David, they were the king of all kings because kings came to them for counsel. And that's what happens with their Committee of 300. She is the head of their Committee of 300, which is another word for the gods that human beings worship, whether that be Middle Eastern gods, Eastern gods, or any other gods. They're just men and women with bank accounts. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the people that you are praying to are just bank accounts. That's all. Okay? Now, here's the thing. The monarchy and their immediate family, all right, blah, 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 are the head of the British Armed Forces, which is in maritime. British is in maritime. Scotland, England, Wales, Commonwealth, England, wars of the three kingdoms. The wars of the three kingdoms. The War of the Three Kingdoms, sometimes known as the English-British Civil War, were the dirty English intertwined series of conflicts that took place between 1867. Okay? The point I'm making is that as long as they get the general public to believe that they are warring amongst themselves, the general public believe that these are warring factions. But what does the Committee of 300 document show? They have been close friends and allies for many, many hundreds of years by succession. Yeah, by succession. They've been friends for a very, very long time. All the people that they went to war with, Germany versus this country, that country, Russia and all them, they're one group. And the Committee of 300 document proves that. It's as simple as that, okay? So do you feel that the general public has now comprehended the magnitude of the lie that they have perpetrated and the magnitude of power that they're saying that they have over the general public, which is non-existent because it's only within their common law systems? Do you think the general public understands this now?
I hope so. The lie is so big and been so for so long that some people find it very hard to grasp the mass of the lie. So yeah, hopefully they would, by keep breaking it down for them and educating them, they will eventually.
Yeah. Now let me come on to the City of London. Do you remember I said to you that the sovereignty can be a person, which is a persona, what they call a straw man? This is what the Wizard of Oz thing is. It's about you taking control of the straw man. And if you don't take control of your other entities doing business, as it were, the straw man will take control of you. Okay, this is the thing that human beings have to understand. And the tragedy of the so-called self-employed people, when people call them self-employed, they're basically saying that my straw man, my servant, my straw man in the field that's lifeless is controlling me. That's what self-employed means. It means the straw man is in control of the man, the woman. And that's a tragedy of it. And that's all done with mirroring. As Hugh said, they get people to believe, look in the mirror, and that is your life. They actually genuinely got people to believe the things inside of a mirror are reality, like the word sovereign, like the word common, like the word common law council. They're all just mirror images. They are a mirror me putting up in front of me like this and saying, that's Mark. No, not this is not Mark, but that's Mark. Until you smash the mirror. And then you become an iconoclast. And when you become an iconoclast, and I'm one of the foremost iconoclasts on this planet, when you become an iconoclast, you are able to smash these illusions. So let's come back to the City of London. Do you remember it said that any institution, any corporations can all become sovereigns? In other words, if McDonald's decides to take up sovereign status, it can dictate its terms and conditions to the unwitty, to the unweary, and anybody foolish enough, and this has to be emphasized, that anybody that is foolish enough to ignite common law. Because when you ignite common law, you have now ignited the right of a chieftain to have his slaves and lands, and you are now servituded to him or her. And that's the tragedy of the people that follow common law, because who has ever got any closure by getting the Magna Carta, a worthless document, back to life again? You will lose, because when the Magna Carta is the men and women that came together to say that we are all coming together in common law that is common to us within this commonwealth realm, to create the illusion to the general public that we are supreme controllers. And I'm going to come on to that. The City of London, which is an independent territory that is a nation unto itself, is also considered a sovereign country, because it has its own gold, it has its own language, it has its own symbols, its own flag, its own Lord Mayor, its own court systems, its own financial institutions. And within the London's frame, it is one of the most wealthiest countries on this planet, if not the most wealthiest country on this planet, that little square mile. Okay. Now, the City of London has to bring in the Queen only by invitation. But if she wants to visit, this sovereign woman, as it were, wants to visit the City of London, she can only do so by asking permission. And you can see that all online. Without permission, she can't enter it, because she's moving into a true sovereign country. And one sovereign, if she doesn't have an invitation, then it's an invasion, and she doesn't have a visa. So an invitation, what they call special visitation, or albeit a special visitation, needs to be put in place. So there's all this is basically telling you these people are not who they say they are. As long as they give you the illusion, the ceremony, the image has to be kept up. Long as they give the ceremony, the general public believe this is how it is. Okay, so the City of London, if she wants to go in, she has to be invited. And the second elementary part of the City of London, which is also another sovereign state, is the City of Westminster. And when you have banks or anything like that within Westminster, it's the laws of Westminster that apply to Westminster Common Law Council, as opposed to the rest of the world. So the general public, in their private or in the public, don't know they're actually submitting themselves to the chieftain's rules within their dictatorial monarchy systems of sovereignty. So when you have a bank that's within the Westminster or City of London, those are the laws that are being run within those countries, within that little small region called Westminster, Washington, D.C., Vatican City, and there are so many of these city states. The general public don't know they're doing their banking in Saudi Arabia with Saudi Arabia rules. They don't know it, but Saudi Arabia, when it does its banking in the City of London, knows it's doing it in the laws of the City of London. And what is the laws of a sovereignty or a dictator? Make it up as they go along. Make it up as they go along.